Michael Parker and Deprogram on today's News Talk Radio, TNT.
Greetings, truth seekers and free thinkers, good people of all types, higher mammals. It is Michael Parker. It is Deprogram. It is Thursday, July the 21st, 12:04, on another beautiful day in Southern California. And I'm glad to be here. Today's kind of a special day. We're going to spend the first couple of hours talking about wellness and mindfulness and getting our act together in a time that's difficult. And it all starts with the individual and getting ourselves healthy. So it'll be a nice change of pace from politics and things like that. Although we will get our politics on in the third hour. Don't worry. We'll do that. But before we get to this, I'm going to be joined by Audrey Hope in just a moment. Before I get to this, I've got one quick story. I know you guys have all heard that President Biden has come down with COVID, and I wish him the best of health. It's supposedly he's not feeling too bad, and they're treating him with Paxlovid, which I don't know if that's the best thing, but that's how they're treating him, and he is supposedly not suffering too much. So I wish him health. On another story, comedian Dave Chappelle, who I love, and I know he's a controversial guy, but you know, when I was growing up, humor was something that it was always meant to get you thinking. And I'm a strong believer in free speech. I am not a censorship guy. And Dave Chappelle, made some remarks in one of his shows a year or two ago that caused a great deal of angst. And it ended up, Netflix, I guess, they had a lot of pushback because they were airing it. Anyway, he just had a show canceled, and he was going to play, if you're a 80s music fan like myself who loved Prince, you're going to know this venue. It was First Avenue in Minneapolis, and he was supposed to play there, I think, last night. So they canceled the show last minute, issued a statement on Twitter, kind of apologizing, and they ended up moving the show to another venue, which I think he's playing tonight and tomorrow as well. But it's a bummer because you don't have to agree with what the man has to say, but at the end of the day, the man is a comedian, and I think we all need to laugh right now. And I think sometimes we get a little carried away with our righteous anger about certain things. I mean, the whole point of Dave Chappelle is to kind of push a few buttons. And frankly, he makes me laugh a lot, and he said a lot of stuff that's aimed at guys like me, and I still laugh. So I was sad to see this happen. And frankly, I kind of thought we were already over this. I thought the Dave Chappelle controversy was in the past. So I was surprised to see this yesterday. And the deal is, I mean, this doesn't hurt Dave Chappelle. This makes Dave Chappelle even more famous. This makes him even more popular. And anytime you censor things, it makes more people want to go see it. In the 90s, we had rap records, and people would get bent out of shape about the rap records. In the 80s, there was heavy metal, and people would get bent out of shape about that. All that does is make people want to buy it more. I mean, I worked in the music business for a long time, and it was an open joke that if you put an explicit content sticker on a CD, that was actually better for business, because now all these kids are going to want it. So anyway, these things are, on one hand, perhaps they're counterintuitive, but on the other hand, it's just common sense. It's like the more you tell somebody that they can't hear something or see something or talk about something, the more they're going to want to do it. So this is going to make Dave Chappelle and his humor even more worthy of I'm talking about it right now. So anyway, Dave, I know this doesn't hurt you at all. First Avenue, Minneapolis, you are a very famous place in music history. I wish you guys had done it, but it's your business, and I respect that. So, yeah, another strike down for free speech here in America, but that's just the way it goes. Speaking of free speech, I wanted to tell you guys, because we want to give back to the community, and I know that a lot of you who listen to our show are involved in various types of functions and groups within your community. And if you have a community event, a rally, a march, a festival, or a fundraiser that you need some free publicity with us, reach out to us, because we do help out on these things quite frequently. And TNT Radio wants to promote it for you. So we have an area of our website, which is the What's On Events calendar, and it's on the TNT Radio website. Submit your event details, and we'll get the word out for you, because that's how we do things here at TNT Radio.
The stories that matter to you.
It's a source I can trust.
Today's News Talk Radio, TNT.
All right, folks. So in this first hour, we're going to be speaking with Audrey Hope. She is an LA-based relationship expert, a spiritual teacher, a trauma counselor, and she's been at this for over 20 years. And I believe that she works in, I think it's called Seasons, which is out in Malibu. And she also has her own private practice. And I think that she primarily specializes in addiction and relationships. And I think when we think about the 21st century, the things that, we probably suffer from the most mental health wise come from those two things. It's either an addiction to a substance or a person. And then sometimes maybe we're in a bad relationship and we need to get out of that. Anyway, Audrey, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it.
It's so great to be here. And I want to say something about what you just said. It's also an addiction. Tell an addict not to use and he's going to want to use. So it just works in human nature that way. It's so funny. Just made me laugh. Yes. But I have to apologize for my voice. Guess what? We just got over COVID last week.
Really?
Yes. We haven't had it. We haven't had it, vaccinated, everything. But, it's circling around now to a lot of us who haven't gotten it. But here's the great news, Michael. Oh my God, you could take vitamin C drips, super immune drips. We had the nurse come over. It was incredible. It's a good thing to do anyway. And she said if she got me at the first day, she could have given me the antibodies and it would go just like that. So there is hope. Yes, it costs money. Mm-hmm. It was about $3.99 for the super immune. But you know what? I tested negative. My husband's okay. So yeah, we finally got it. So my voice is still a little,
That's okay. It's fine. And I can hear you great. So we just had COVID in our house as well. Both of my daughters had it. I've talked about it quite a bit on the show, so I'll keep this to a minimum.
I see.
But it finally came through our house last month, just a couple of weeks ago. My 17-year-old had it first. My 20-year-old had it after her. And in both cases, they rolled through it. We didn't have the vitamin C drip like what you're talking about, but early on, I had friends talking about high dosages of vitamin C being extremely helpful. So how did you know? Just one last thing. How did you know to go that route?
Well, Norman Cousins wrote a book years ago on healing. He was sick. He locked himself in a motel or a hotel room, gave himself mega doses of vitamin C and watched cartoons, and he healed himself. So he was the first one, so I'm a healer on all levels. And one of the things that I do is bring in new revolutionary ideas of healing, because it's not just what you think it is. Sometimes it could be an emotional issue, something you never healed before, something you never looked at. So even with what's going on in the world, I'm so happy to be here, Michael, because I am too. Say that, on a deeper level, there's so much healing going on. There's the wake up call. And a lot of us who have been in this movement for a long time knew something was coming. We just didn't know how it was going to be. But everybody's getting it from all ends. There's nowhere to hide. It's just like coming to your front door, and we have to deal with it. But like all trauma and all pain, there's a new way of looking at it, which is it will lead us somewhere. So everyone hold on. The great news is we could see all the crap now. It is out front and center. Before it was hiding.
That's the way I kind of look at it. So you said something intriguing just then. You said that many of us in the healing kind of arena knew something was coming. What do you mean by that?
Well, for years, a lot of us are alive now. It's like we're all here now. Mm-hmm. And astrologically, you heard the age of Aquarius, so there's been kind of a prophecy.
I'm an astrology buff. I admit it.
Yeah, right. So there's a lineup in the sky. There's this time period, and we go through different cycles, and we're in a cycle of great, great, great transformation. So when you do alchemy, everything has to be purified till it's kind of like, healed. So things dissolve, get purified in the process, and then they come into a new state, caterpillar to butterfly. So that's where we're in right now. So everyone just needs to hold on and change their perspective, because there's so much panic and fear is not good for the cells. It's actual proof. It will slow it down. And we have to be careful to never give in to fear.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because in a minute, I'm drinking. You guys, I'm drinking water right now. Pellegrino. Sometimes the spirit, the little bubbles get to me. In a minute, I want to talk about your 10 keys, and one of those is cellular memory. But before we get to that, so tell us about you and the work that you do, because I think that most people, or some people, will think, oh, wait a minute. If you're helping a person with substance abuse or things of that nature, how does the spiritual aspect play into that? Because there's a lot of people that might think, okay, if I go to I don't know if rehab is the correct word to even use. Treatment center is probably better. They may think that, well, it's more geared towards diet and coming to terms with things. But what do you do with your clients?
Well, that's a lot. There's so much to say in that. A funny thing happened on the way. The funny thing happened on the way to the forum. I think that's very important to surrender one's life to the true path and your true life purpose. And when I started years ago, I was just on a healing journey for myself. I had amazing teachers. I mean, they were just like hiding away somewhere, but I found them and I was on this road for authenticity and healing. So there wasn't anything about soul healing when I started, and I was hired, and it seemed like the path was just there for me to do it and experiment on a deeper level, which is, why is this happening? Why am I in this? And to go into what I say, karma, past lives, really the answers that we all want to know. So I didn't plan this, but I surrendered to the path, and I ended up at Seasons. I've been there a very long time because the team is so amazing. And we don't just look at the drugs. It's never about the drugs. It's never about the trauma. It's always, what's underneath it at the root of the root and the core. And that has to do with healing the body too, the physical symptoms. John Sarno wrote a book on the back, and, he never did surgery, only rarely, I think, because he was going to the emotional issues. So what I want to do on a personal level, on a global level, is get to the roots of these things. And so I was a pioneer. I really was. I was really put down. I mean, nobody wanted, please don't mention spirituality. Right. And I was one of the original YouTubers also. I started a show, and now it's like YouTube has taken off, spirituality has taken off. But what I really wanted to say is to go deeper into the root. And so it's never about the drugs. Sometimes I won't even ask, what are you taking? It's not important. It got you there, got you on your knees. And now we could do the healing of your soul, which is what we all need to do, right? Otherwise, things are just going to come back again and again. Even in relationships, do you have friends who just meet the same person over and over again? They divorce, and they end up the same thing because you got to heal at that root. Does that answer your question, Michael?
It does. And it actually just I just want to throw one other thing. And it's like, when you mention relationships, because living here, I've lived here in Los Angeles for 30 years. And I got married kind of late in life. I was, how old was I, man? It's late 20s or something. But anyway, I guess that's not that late. But point being, I had girlfriends before that. And when I met the woman that I'm still married to now, 27 years later, one of the first things I noticed, I was like, well, wait a minute. We're not fighting a lot, and she's not stressing me out. Like, well, maybe this is what it's supposed to be, because, you'll meet people and there could be passion and all of that. But like, if there's this underlying anger and all this other stuff, then it's not going to work. And I think that when I met my wife, that was one of the epiphany moments. I was like, wow, this is what it's supposed to be. And then you mentioned the other people that tend to meet the same people over and over. And I guess they're kind of finding or projecting, I don't know, how do they find the wrong people over and over?
Well, you know how you go, I don't know if you've ever done marriage therapy or couple therapy. It usually begins, well, he did this, she did this, right? Yeah. And you end up buying a house for your therapist in Florida. So. Well, what it really is everyone has to go to their own side of the rink and really begin to say, what is this as a mirror? why did I meet this person? And what is this person bringing up for me to heal in myself? And that's kind of the secret of it, to do inventory. And if anybody out there really wants to meet their soulmate, I think it's a science. I don't think it's that difficult. If you do what needs to be done, you will heal it, which is take inventory, look at all your relationships in everything and see what always comes up for you. And there it is, the theme. And if you can get to the theme of what's going on, you could save years and years of therapy. So if people would do that with their relationships, they won't blame. They will use the pain and the heartache as an opportunity to learn something.
So you have a private practice. You also work at Season. So at Season, yes. I would think that's more geared towards substance abuse, but your private practice, I would say, I'm guessing that's more on the relationship level. Is that correct? Or
Michael, it's absolutely everything. Yeah. Sometimes people are stuck. They want to manifest money, right? Mm-hmm. They don't understand why they don't have what they want. So that's manifestation. And there are secrets to it also, which is you have to remove the blocks to whatever is in the way. And you kind of have to have the ability to see what it is and help someone see what it is so they can move it out quickly, which is the tunnel that's in the way. So the stories at Seasons are quite unbelievable. I mean, it's never boring. Yeah, I haven't heard it all yet in 22 years. So you might come in for drugs, but then you'll end up talking about something that happened in childhood, or you'll talk about your marriage or whatever. So it's everything. It's just a way to, I think, get you on your knees so that you could begin to do work towards enlightenment. Because
I like that.
There's two, I came up with this thing and I write a lot. There's two tracks to trauma. Trauma is horrible, and sexual abuse.
Audrey, let me just stop you for just a second, because I want to spend time on this. I have to take a quick break, but I want to go deep on this. So I speak with Audrey Hope. We're talking about relationships. We're talking about healing ourselves through ways that you might not have thought about at first. This is TNT. This is Deprogram. We'll be back in about 2 minutes.
You should hear what Joseph Arthur is talking about.
I was blown away to see the New York Post just writing openly about doctors and the CDC members and quoting people that wanted to remain anonymous, that are saying, there's no captain at the ship anymore and they're not following science. And I was like, imagine this stuff being written a year ago. You couldn't imagine it. Anybody who would even suggest this would be demonized within an inch of their life. Now we have the New York Post, just writing it like it's just a normal article. Here's and it's like, wait a minute, this narrative has reached the mainstream and is shifting. That's direct evidence that there's a major shift occurred. And the interesting thing about it is everything that they do, the people that are trying to sort of subjugate humanity, it backfires on them.
Joseph Arthur and his Technicolor Dreamcast on today's News Talk Radio, TNT.
Affordable housing, we can build that. Sustainable housing, we can build that. At MIT Modular, we understand the importance of housing for all and the importance of design, cost, and functionality. Our goal is to meet the needs of our growing population by converting shipping containers to livable units. If you're like-minded and in a position to invest in something meaningful and life-changing, we want to hear from you. We are a team of professional architects, engineers, and financial and tax experts dedicated to offering unique solutions that provide a brighter future. Our Opportunity Zone Fund offers investors both real estate and operating business diversification, 5-year tax deferral on capital gains, annual tax benefits, and ultimately tax-free appreciation potential. There are opportunity zones all over America. If you're interested in learning more about our services, need affordable housing, or want to participate in creating a new vision for tomorrow, give us a call in the U.S. on 385-985-5702. Or read more at mitmodular.com. MIT Modular. We can build that.
This is today's News Talk and the voice of freedom, TNT Radio.
We are speaking with Audrey Hope. She has a website, audreyhope.com. She treats addiction, she treats relationships, and she comes at it from more of a spiritual background. And that is what we're talking about. So I'm sorry I had to cut you off, Audrey. We are back. Let's get back into it.
I wanted to say, Michael, there are two tracks to trauma. It's horrible, sexual abuse. It's just horrible. And even what we're all going through now, it is horrible. But the other side of it is it's kind of fuel that also gives us our best selves. So it's a really interesting thing. I've met people that, at the center who grew up in trailer parks, and they became one of the richest people, in the United States. And so they came to heal their childhood that was unresolved, but it did give them fuel to become millionaires. So there's two tracks to it, and it's very important to change our perspective about pain and not get stuck in it and use it and say, why is this happening for my soul? What is this inspiring? A lot of us get born into families who don't get us. There's a lot of pain, like from our families, right? It's called the wound of the tribe. And if you could survive that, you could survive anything. So it's important to change that perspective and say, well, why doesn't anybody in my family get me? Well, maybe I was supposed to find it in myself, which again is the root of all healing, which is the relationship with self and where we divide it. And it happens in politics too, Michael, and you talk about politics, right? It's a triangle. Get them from the top, you control, and then divide the people to fight. It's the oldest trick in the book, right? And then you're separated, and then they go and do what they want. It's very important that we don't allow that to happen. Like you say, free thinking. Well, it's free thinking within, because a lot of times people come to the center and they're indoctrinated into religion. It's really, they think they're going to burn in hell. They think because they're using, they're going to burn in hell. And so you always want to give people free thinking and to understand the trick. Do not fight amongst themselves and do not divide against yourself, which is stop putting yourself down. And if you could get that alignment in someone, you could heal.
You said don't stop putting yourself down. And that's hard to do, because I think that most of us are I'm overly self-critical, and I have always been. And when I was working on various things, creative projects or whatever it was, like I'm my own worst critic. And so it's hard to how do we get over that?
Well, that's a great question, but that is the crux of it, self-doubt. It is in everyone, Michael, everyone. I'm trying to think if there's anyone I met who didn't have problems with self-esteem on some level, even if they've had great success. So there has to be like boundaries, like spiritual law, I would call it, like I am no longer going to put myself down no matter what. If you have a puppy, if you're a dog lover or a cat lover, you wouldn't think of hurting your puppy or cat. So you got to think of yourself kind of that way. Like, stop treating yourself badly. Notice when you do it and know that it's very dangerous. It really is detrimental to the soul. So if you can get someone to stop that, listen, if you had cancer, you might treat yourself nicer, right? But we are very, very hard on ourselves, and it has to stop. Do you notice when you do it?
Well, I'm pushing 60, so I've been doing it for a long time, but I do it less now. But at one point, I mean, I know that you're on YouTube, so like, don't read the comments. And it's like, at one point when I was doing one particular show, I'd read the comments, and most of them would be positive, but you find yourself, the only one you remember was the one negative one, and that would be the one that would like ping in your ear. And that's, they say, don't read your reviews and don't read the comments, because it's just, so I don't anymore. I mean, I'm not really on YouTube as much as I used to be, but I try not to overanalyze things. I've mellowed a little bit in age, and having kids was part of that. But so I try to be aware of it when I'm doing it.
Well, on another level, which is energy, I find that a lot of people don't work with energy. Sometimes people can come in with anxiety and depression. And as an energy soul healer, I see it's the energy of too much. They've taken in too much and they never released it from their body. So I teach a lot about negative energy, and it's even going on politically, right?
Oh, for sure.
There's a negative energy and you have to watch it because it will make you sick, right? And you have to be able to clear it. So the idea is, on a spiritual level, you have to stop caring what people think. It's very important. I call it the two O's, the outside world and the other, the outside world and others. As spiritual warriors healing the world, we have to be very careful that we're true to ourselves, check in with the integrity of self, because that's where it is. Validate that and be careful that you don't have any Achilles heel that are open on your shield, because we all need a shield that comes in and makes you not like yourself or put yourself down. And that's a big thing that I do, because when I look at where people got hurt with criticism as a child, it isn't what other people do to us. It's what we do to ourselves because of it. So we have critical parents, and that we can heal in therapy, right? Mm-hmm. But do we realize that we've taken on the thing that we hate, which is critical to ourselves? So if I were working with you, I would track that. I would track that to when you were a child. Who did that to you? Where did you get that? And try and go deep into it, because when you can get to it, it usually happens around 6, 7, 8. We get used to criticism.
I speak with
Become
Audrey
very hard
Hope.
on the self. Yeah.
I speak with Audrey Hope. We have our bottom of the hour little news break. We will be right back. I'm thoroughly enjoying this conversation, Audrey. This is TNT. We'll be right back.
This is James O'Neill with a check of today's headlines. President Joe Biden has tested positive for COVID-19. The president is said to be exhibiting mild symptoms. The European Union has announced a plan to lower its gas use by 15% until next spring as it prepares for a winter without Russian gas. In Sri Lanka, former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe was sworn in as the country's new president on Thursday.
Do you have a suggestion for a possible guest or host that you'd like to hear on TNT Radio? Or perhaps you have a topic you feel we should discuss? Then we want to hear from you. Simply complete the suggestion form on the TNT Radio website. Help us make a difference on TNT Radio.
I am speaking with Audrey Hope. We're talking about her work with people who suffer from addiction or issues with relationships and just mental issues that trouble them. And she's been doing it for 20 plus years. And Audrey, on your website, one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, you have a thing called the 10 Keys to Healing, if I could ask you about a few of these. And so this morning, I'm in a new time slot, and I really wanted the new time slot because I like to go to the gym in the morning. I'm not really a morning person, but I notice when I go to the gym and I get the blood flowing and the synapses firing and breathing and all that, I am much better off for the day. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is the idea of unlocking cellular memory, holding the pain in, I guess, at a cellular level.
We'll love that. Okay. So when someone comes in and I say, how are you? What's going on? They'll sometimes say to me, well, I feel like I have a noose around my neck, or I feel like I can't get this person off me. That's really soul language that can also save you years of therapy, because what happens is our body keeps the score. There is a book about it. The body takes it on, and most people just heal in the mind. You go to talk therapy, but the trauma and the pain goes into the cells on an energy level, and that's where you have to get it. So with everyone, I have never met anyone who has not been able, when they close their eyes, I'll say, where is the pain? They'll be able to track it in their own body. They'll say sometimes in the chest, I'll say, what does it look like? What does it feel like? And they'll give me an image. Somebody yesterday said, oh my God, I see this red blood, like it's in my chest. And we went in it and we found out the answer. It was something that he never revealed, and it was there. So once he did it, the red changed and it turned to blue. So we have to understand that we're taking in like a sponge all the energy of our lives, our relatives. We are sponges. And most people don't understand we have the ability as spiritual beings in the I am now, right? I am now. So like we have a cup of coffee every day, we have to go into our system, see it, become almost our own doctors, which is always the best, see where it is and clear it with light. We are light beings. And I really believe that if Einstein, Tesla, and the great scientists were here, they would have realized this, that we are made of electricity. That's the next thing. We are made of electrical light, and that we have to heal on that level. So we have this body ability to go in, use light, find out where it is, and heal it, because the issue will manifest inside the cells and will become sick, right? And then it'll be like cancer or something. So we will manifest our issues in the cellular memory.
So I want to make sure I understand this, because when you talk about being electrical beings, I agree with you 100%.
Yes.
I think that's why acupuncture works. I think that's why we have things called ley lines on the planet. I mean, but let me ask you this. So when you ask this gentleman, where does the pain hurt or what does it look like? He explains it. Is that all you have to do, is just get them to identify that and then describe it? And that is...
Well, it's different spokes for different folks, right? It's amazing how somebody will feel they're not intuitive, especially with men, and they're extremely visual. So everyone has the psychic ability in some sense. And I don't know why people are so turned off to that. I mean, their intuition, their compass inside that would tell them things. And one of the things that I do in my work is to turn on that guidance system, to be connected right to the phone lines so that the universe can help you do what you want to do. Find the right healers. All you have to whisper to the wind, please, I'm ready to heal. And you'll believe me, you could be taken to the right place to heal. So a lot of us need to get into that reality that the universe is awake and it's helping us. And I don't ask anybody to believe it. I'm a New Yorker. I say, just experiment with it and see, just surrender and see what happens when you give into a new system of living, which is to see what comes back when you put it out there. So I hope that answers.
Audrey, it does. So check this out. So maybe sometimes we need different words for things, because like yourself, I'm interested in a lot of these types of subjects. And I know that there's a lot of people who are not, and that's their approach. But I think sometimes instead of thinking of it as intuition or something, think of it as instinct. Like nobody questions an animal behaving on instinct, but we will talk about, maybe a person in Wall Street or an athlete or an entertainer that has good instincts. So we'll celebrate that, but then the idea of intuition or enlightenment is a little too woo-woo.
Well, I love that point, because I'll take it a step further, Michael. How about these diagnoses that we get? That drives me crazy as a healer, because you now get stuck in it. And now you kind of get the benefit of the wound in a way. And now they give you drugs. Now they're going to feed you drugs. Okay. Thank God for drugs that help us. The pharmaceuticals, they're very helpful. But it's still a curtain. We need to go to the soul level to see what it is. So I work with doctors, and diagnosis take with a grain of salt, because we still have to go in there and see what's going on with the soul. Why were you born? What are you here to heal? What's going on with your karma? It's very interesting sometimes to see a past life, because nothing else has helped a person. They've tried everything and they're still stuck. So you sometimes have to go to this other level. Now, do people believe it? Do they think it's woo-woo? 20 years ago they did. But bring me a suffering person, someone who's in so much pain, believe me, they will open up and go, okay, let's go. Because they're open from the pain. And that's when you can go in and prove it to them that there are other means of healing. So I always found it as an opportunity.
Well, and you're very easy to talk to as well. And I think that maybe sometimes people are, I used to not like to go to the doctor. I'm still not crazy. I just had a physical yesterday, and it's like I couldn't get out of there fast enough, even though my doctor's a lovely little lady. But it's just, I think sometimes we have to find the right person that we can talk to be able to express the truth and then be able to accept those ideas back.
Yes, but it's also holding the energy. People who say, well, Audrey, you have really good energy. Well, I work on it because I want to be able to live in that at all times. And then that's what people feel. So I've been so inspired by seeing how someone comes in on the floor, just devastated, hopeless, sometimes suicidal, and to be able to use these new ideas and new systems of healing to transform a life. It's extraordinary. And I want to bring it into the world now with everything that's going on. We're going to have some relief. We're fighting, and we all woke up. We were asleep.
Well, Audrey, I agree with you. And I'd write lyrics and things, and I was like, the one lyric that came to me one time, I kind of haven't forgotten it. And I just watch it. It seems like the last to awaken are the most angry. It's like, it's like when they finally get it, like, holy cow, all this time I was wrong. And I think people sometimes have trouble admitting they're wrong. So they'll continue to hold on to something, even though internally it's not jiving. But to admit I was wrong, holy cow, that's a bridge too far.
Yeah. That's happening in the world with a lot of these conspiracy theories. People can't admit, they're wrong. They have to hold on to it. There's a sickness there, and to start to look at it as healing that. Healing, yeah. What makes someone follow Hitler or somebody who is that kind of authoritarian? It's an interesting thing. I work with cults too. Again, you got to bring someone back to free thinking. Oh my God, Scientologists. Don't even get me started. That was really tough. They're so embedded in the system. It's hard to bring them out. And I've worked with some of the worst cults, really. But when you bring someone back to thinking on their own, you save a life. And so one person at a time, politically too, let's bring the people back to thinking for themselves.
Audrey, that's why I named the show Deprogram It. And I didn't mean it like
I love
within a
it.
cult. It came to me in the middle of the night, and the whole idea was just, let's stop thinking of ourselves as black, white, gay, straight, or a pronoun or whatever, and just remember that we're all human. And because I thought that my theory is that the divisory aspects of that is the actual problem. So let's try to move away from that and just remember we're all humans. And I don't mean that in some hippy dippy fairy way. It's just at the end of the day, don't, like you pointed to earlier, it's like, don't allow them to divide you into these groups, which you then self-identify by and become part of a tribe of.
Yeah. Why do you believe what you believe? I love that question. I'll even be with, Bible thumpers. Like, why? Yep. Do you know that there's, lots of documents that were, taken out of the Bible? Like, did you do research? Like, right. Before you believe something, you've got to question it. Question it. Where did you get it from? Did you get it from your mother or father? And that gets people to stop and think, where did I get it from? Who gave me that belief system? People that are into these conspiracy theories are really troubled. There's a lot of, things like that need to be healed in them that would even go to wanting to belong to a group, that anger. It has to be healed on that level.
Well, you might think I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I tend to think of it a different way. I just try to be a critical thinker. And I've been down every rabbit hole. I've been doing this stuff for 20 years. And it's funny. It's like, I take things in, I listen to it, I file it away. If I find something relevant that points to that, I'm a bit savant in that, I can remember that thing, but I don't try to let it rule my life. I'm just a big skeptic. And so I sometimes don't expect the best out of people, especially when they're in politics or whatever. So, anyway.
That might be a very good protective thing to keep.
And I like, and Audrey, I like to laugh too. It's like, and that's why the thing about Dave Chappelle bugged me earlier. It's like, because people say, well, Parker, why do you read about all this heavy stuff? It's like, well, I can separate that from my own life. And I also like to laugh about it, which is not, I'm not saying that I'm denying that any of it could be. It's just that I try to balance the two.
I think that's wonderful because laughter is such a healing medicine. And
one of my favorite
we
things.
once had, when we had somebody came in who was a laugh therapist, he was teaching people to laugh in order to heal. Because if you cry or laugh, you're still emoting. It's still coming out and releasing from the body. And I once had a woman who cried for weeks, and then all of a sudden she started laughing, and she said, "I'm done." And she just started, so laughter is very precious.
Audrey, we're going to take a break. Let's talk about crying on the other side, because it's very hard for people to cry, especially men. And the couple of times that I've cried over the last couple of years, I had stuff to get out of my system. Anyway, it was beneficial. I'm speaking with Audrey Hope. This is TNTD program. We'll be right back.
De-weaponizing weather with reality and perspective.
The worst of the heat is over in the UK and France, at least for now. Temperatures will be remaining above normal in Europe, and this is part and parcel of what my company, weatherbell.com, has been forecasting since February. Amazing amounts of heat over the central part of the United States and a hot summer in Europe. In fact, the pattern is quite similar to 1976 and 2003. Some interesting implications to that if you connect the dots. First of all, both those seasons had hurricane hits on the eastern seaboard. Secondly, the winters in the United States and in Europe turn cold quickly. And we are concerned about that. Given the energy situation, a taxing summer like this, followed by an early winter, would be a real big problem. This is weatherbell.com meteorologist Joe Bastardi for TNT Radio, reminding you to enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
People join Walk MS to raise awareness and funds that change the world for everyone affected by multiple sclerosis. Walk MS brings communities together, creating teams with friends, loved ones, and coworkers to rally around those we care about and end MS forever. Together, we can change the world for people with MS. Register today at walkms.org.
Today's News Talk Radio. TNT.
I'm speaking with Audrey Hope, and right before the break, we were talking about both laughter and crying. And when I look at Audrey's 10 keys to healing, I see things that, from a layman's standpoint, speak to me of breaking through the walls that we build to keep anything from breaking through. So how do you get people to get in touch with that pain that they've done everything they can do to avoid? And like I say, for men, we don't want to cry. Every now and then I've had the birth of my kids or like something extremely traumatic, and I would cry and I would realize afterwards, like, oh, wow, I needed that. How do you get people to get in touch with that pain?
Michael, you just opened up a can of worms. You were saying men don't cry. You were saying men don't cry. I just want to address that in a minute. Wait a minute.
They do.
That's so true.
Probably less.
No, but
probably
it's
less.
It's a thing. It's a thing. But one of the most dangerous things that people can do is say, "I'm fine. I'm okay." All right. How many times do you do that, right? I'm fine. Yep. I'm fine. I'm fine. Now do that for 20, 30 years. You now have an atomic bomb living in your body, right? So that's one of the things you have to honor, that if you're going to go through trauma, like I've worked with a lot of 9/11 fire people, right? And this woman came in and said, well, it's my job. She was drinking, but it was my job to bury 650 fingers and toes. Really? Where was the job description that you were going to go in a building and have that experience? So that wasn't honoring the atomic bomb that happened inside of her. And, oh, it's fine. And Navy SEALs, I've worked with them. They're fine. No, it's honoring the wound, and it will fester and it will grow. And what do? Men are taught young, don't cry, don't emote, it's weak. So there's a whole revolution that needs to take place with men. And I'm lucky because I get to work with them in addiction, which is a safe place to begin to do that. But it needs to happen on a global scale where men need to feel safe and that it's not about their ego, that it's very healing to talk about what's really going on. And I don't think we're there yet. And I hope that it happens. I mean, if I wanted to do another career, I'd just work with men and get them to do the crying because it's so important. And we need that in the world because the balance of men and women, we can see what's happening now politically, right? Always trying to take women's rights. So it's a really big thing because women are the spiritual Shekinah of the earth and of the, so not crying is a very, and holding it in for years and years will make you sick. So you have to find a way in to begin to open up that, okay? You can't go in for the kill, which is the crying. You have to go into what's going on and how do you feel and create the space for it where some man would feel or woman feels safe. And then they begin to talk and then that safety zone, it begins to happen. It's a natural thing that begins to happen. But you can't just deny it, walk away, run away, close the door. There has to be, I'm now going to heal and begin my journey. And then the tears will come through that process of opening up the journey. I'm going to take that road. I'm going to start self-reflecting and looking at things I hid in the closet. There's a lot of effort to put things in a closet and lock the door. And then you find out, well, I'll just go gently in, open the door, look at it, see what's in there. It's not so scary. There's more effort to keep it closed. So with healing, you have to let someone know, let's say there's a real traumatic event. Sometimes I'll just work with cartoons or color and have them do a visual like that. You don't have to revisit the actual horror of it. There's so many different ways you could go in there and get it.
I like hearing that. After your own, I've got a person coming on and we're talking about some of these similar things. And one of the things he talks a lot about is blue and the color blue and soothing ourselves. But when I said that men don't cry, I realized that was a generalization. But by and large, no, we were taught from early on. And I think about in over 20 years, the times I've cried, I could count on one hand. And it was usually the result of high ecstasy, like the birth of a baby or the passing of a family member, or just finally just like the anxiety of something hitting me. But I'm just saying, like over 20 years, I probably cried 5 times.
Well, it's a cultural thing, Michael.
Yes.
It's not necessarily a stereotype. It's true. Men are very rational and they take care of things and they want to, fix things. So they're not used to it. So it's what I've seen in my work. Men say, I better not cry. Like they're so afraid. They have to apologize for it. So
well, I didn't want to just focus on men. And now I'm feeling a little like, I also want to know give me the state of women right now. Like there's been so much tension, and you mentioned it, like reproductive rights and things like this. The 21st century has been pretty rough, in my opinion. I mean, I've seen...
Michael, I started on YouTube on a show called Real Women, Positive Role Models for Women. I did this years ago. I have to resurrect it because I can't believe what I was on to. Okay. Yeah. And that was that I wanted to tell women that they were brainwashed. And if I could do that, that was going to be my show. You're brainwashed. You're brainwashed. Do you know you're brainwashed? Of course, you open a magazine in 2 seconds, you feel old, ugly, not good enough, not skinny enough, not smart enough. This is what's been done to women since the beginning of time. And I've researched this on all levels, historically, culturally. It has been the biggest conspiracy of all. Take women down because it's the spiritual energy of the planet. So the degree into which a woman is respected is the degree to which a society prospers. That's from the Vedas. So if you bring women back to their goddess selves and their power, which is actually the Kundalini in the body. It's a feminine energy. You heal the planet because there's an equal playing field. So by doing this now, it's a spiritual thing by taking down the women. So right now, it's happening in our faces as it's always been in our history, right? So women are not going to take it. They are outraged. They're on the streets. It's not going to happen. We're not going to let it happen. It is not going to be. We are done. We are, a woman scorned. Watch out. So yeah, they could think all they want, but it's not going to take.
Ooh, you
definitely hit a nerve. You're in my life purpose now, because if you can heal the women and you could get them to have self-esteem, and then they become queens, then they could help the man to be a king. Right. It's all about the woman. So, you're in my wheelhouse now, and I can't believe what's happening.
Well, let me just say this. I like seeing you this fired up, because I'm just a regular, just straight white guy. Like, who cares what I think? But I think that's part of the problem. It's like everything has become so complex and so tense. And it's like, I don't know. I don't want to be the old guy that thought, wow, everything was better when I was growing up. But there just seemed to be less tension in the air and less complex. But maybe it was because I was young and I just missed some of the obvious cues.
Well, in the Bible, it says women are second. That's where it is. And it's all Eve's fault, Mm-hmm. So there it is right there. So women are second. So you got to heal the women. You got to give women back their self-esteem in order to heal this world. And that's the secret. We don't have to wait for men to get it. We just need to be in our power, take back what is ours. And that's the secret of it all. We're not asking for permission. You don't ask anybody for permission or validation.
Nope.
And that's the secret to healing too. You got to heal it within your own self, right? Yeah.
What are you, because we got about 4 or 5 minutes, what are you seeing right now out there that sounds like it's this, but what else are you seeing with your clients or patients that they're struggling the most with? Because this is a complex time with COVID and everything and all the political tension and all these things that are happening. What is it that you think you're seeing the most that concerns you?
Hopelessness.
Boom. Yep.
Too much
fix it
for too long. And that's also a trick of energy. Just keep going, right? The dark energy just keeps coming at us and it tires us out. And that's what I want to help people to not be tired, because this kind of energy will win because it doesn't have a conscious, it just keeps going. And it's the dark energies. I work a lot with, that's a whole nother subject of dark energies and all that, because it does exist too. But it's important that we don't tire and let this energy of negativity get into our cells and make us hopeless so that we give up. We've got to keep the energy up, and we've got to keep the hope and keep the power in every single person. And that will help save the world.
How can we keep the hope? Because unfortunately, listen, I'm part of the media, so I'm part of it, but I try not to watch the news very often, and I certainly don't listen to an entire broadcast. I'll catch it when I'm getting dressed or walking through the house or what have you. But it just seems like we're inundated with, bad news all the time. There's not a lot of good news, because they say, if it bleeds, it leads. And so we're inundated with just kind of bad news all the time. And I do hear a lot of people say, listen, man, I'm just tired.
They see, that's where the energy gets you. When you're tired and you're distraught, that's when you know it's negative energy. You have to rise above it, and you have to watch it in neutrality. You watch it as if you're watching a story, but you don't get involved in it. You stay above it like in a light beam, high above it like in the energy of the sun. I use the energy of the sun. I mean, it has no religious overtones. We could all believe in it. It's a power source. And to stay there and know this is all a play, and we have to be able to be enlightened, conscious beings that stays positive in order to take over the light. This is a war of darkness versus light. I mean, come on. That's what it is. Don't fall into the play. Rise above it and know that this has to happen. It's transformation, and it has to go this way. You have to see it to heal it, and it's going to be okay. Just don't let it get into your cells and start saying negative things and be tired. Watch your energy field. Go out in nature.
Mm-hmm. I love
Constantly
sunshine.
feed your soul. Yeah.
I try to listen to a lot of music. Music has been something that I've loved my entire life. It's my favorite thing. But those are the things that I think that they're just very helpful. Hey, we have like a minute or two left. Tell everybody how they can find everything Audrey Hope. I'm going to have you back because I've enjoyed this. So tell everybody how they find you, all of your social medias, your website, all of it.
Michael, thank you so much. You are so beautiful. I really enjoyed this.
Come on. Thank you.
It's true. It's true. You got me talking. Okay, audreyhope.com. You can find everything. And that's the Audrey Hope on Twitter. I'm very political on Twitter. And the Audrey Hope on my Instagram. But basically through my website is everything. And I like to post all my media stuff. And I want to thank you so much for having me.
I thoroughly enjoyed this. I have to talk about current events and news and things, and I'm always relieved when I get to talk about spiritual matters. So I've enjoyed this very much. Thank you, Audrey.
Thanks, Michael. Right. Have a good day. Bye.
You too. All right, folks, we're going to go further into the next hour. We're going to talk about the blue mind. So we'll be back on the other side.